Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm going to take a look at two things this week. First, we're going to look at the month of September, just a couple things in there briefly, and then I'll look at the week of August 30th to September 5th, which we're in the midst of some pretty wild times these days. And so first in September, there's not a lot of real what I would consider like, really prominent exact aspects or anything like that. But of course, we're, as we know, the Saturn Uranus square is in orb all year. And then we also have Chiron kind of in the middle of them, and also getting hit when one or the other gets hit. So that will continue obviously through September, and it's obviously been very prominent in watching a lot of the structural change going on, quick changes, collapsing structures, so much so even just now in the last week or two, we've watched Afghanistan. Now we're watching in the United States this large hurricane come in and hit New Orleans area again and take out a lot of structural stuff. So all that fits very much in. And then like I said last week with the Pluto Eris square getting very close to being exact again, which has also been running in the background for over a year. And then we had this Neptune Palace conjunction too, that it was a very, very potent time for this kind of energy. And just like the Saturn Uranus square with the Pluto Eris square, whenever one of the other planets gets involved with one of the two of them, then it's triggering that whole aspect. So we're really seeing this very acutely, not only in the world in the bigger events, but really, from a lot of my, just personal interactions with people, both in business, career, and personally, people, really like a lot of stress in people's lives, structures falling apart rapidly, really seems to be very chaotic, a lot of chaotic transformation going on. So first of all, September then, just three things really I wanted to mention. So interesting journey for the asteroid series in September, which is very, very interesting. Ceres, the main asteroid of the four asteroids that are the biggest four in the asteroid belt, and astrologers have been using them now for close to 40 years pretty successfully. And so basically feeling like when you look at Ceres, this really fits in with what's going on right now. The Ceres is the mothering principle of the female archetype, and that is the nurturing that we need, the resources that we need, the home that we need, the food, the security, all those things that we need at a very base level to just really survive. So Ceres is making an interesting journey this month, and the first thing to notice is it is in Gemini, and it's conjunct the North Node these days. So I've been talking about the North Node in Gemini now for over a year, how like the common destiny right now, or assignment, is really to make connections in local areas, to share information with people around you. That's a more valid way of getting information, hearing directly from the experiences of others that are in your everyday life. And so that's what that North Node in Gemini, and then to discern, what the truth is amongst all this stuff. So with Ceres there now too, Ceres is gonna will join in to that energy of the Gemini North Node and be like, hey, the way to get nurturing right now is to really get, support through communications, through talking, through listening, through taking things in and getting information out of our environment and the people around us and those things. And that will help us find like with the North Node there, new groups in these local areas that we can form kind of like associations with and get, some of those nurturing needs being met this way. So it's really about like, once again, sharing that information and that kind of thing. Now, the negative side of like Ceres going into Gemini is like, maybe some kind of learning type of dysfunctions or even the manipulation of information because of like fear of security type stuff coming up. So there's some really interesting aspects going on with Ceres with 3 of the outer planet type bodies. And 2 of them are positive aspects. One of them is a more challenging aspect. So Ceres, right at the beginning of the month, Saturn is going to trine Ceres, and so this is like a time where there is a very potent energy of being able to come together with other people and build structure and form around some kind of nurturing kind of energy that's supportive of others and yourself. So like it's almost like getting a benefit through doing this energy together on a social level brings more stability to everybody around. But then a few days later, about a week or 2 later, a week or so actually, I think it's about the 8th or 9th or 10th, Pluto will then square Ceres. And here we see the places where we can actually really kind of like get stuck. I mean, and I'm sorry, it wasn't a square, it's actually a sesquiquadrate, which is very similar. So here we are, wanting to get this nurturing. And what this sesquiquadrate with Pluto is saying is like, there's a transformation going on, and it's going to be really, really difficult to try to like use old ways or even new ways for a little while. Like things kind of have to develop and fall into a place of like where they need to be before you can actually react to them. So very interesting, because it's like, it really can feel like we're stuck. And with Pluto there, it can bring on an emotional crisis. It can bring on very intense feelings about like being like, okay, where do I go from here? And really feeling senses of loss, sorrow, separation, grief, on all these things that are having to be let go, and feeling like we're not able to actually get those nurturing needs met at this point, like feeling like you're not able to get the support, feeling unsupported. So it can be a very, very intense energy. But then about by around the 20th, Chiron is going to sextile Ceres. So that tells me as this, that by then the situation will likely have developed enough that opportunities are going to arise to then act on bringing some of that nurturing back into our lives somehow, and then being able to, that will feel like a healing kind of balm to all that intense energy that's built up through the Pluto sesquiquadrate that has been like kind of just stuck in a place for a while. So a very interesting journey with Ceres this month. And it's really interesting when we think of it in the sense that Ceres has so much to do with resources, and and these are 3 of the outer planet bodies. Like, so the what it's showing us is that we're all, or most of us anyway, are being stressed out on the resource level and having to make these changes. But there is ways to do this, and it still seems to be that local areas are the way to do that. Sharing information is the way to do that. And now at this point, building some kind of structure, Saturn will support that, and like finding the opportunities to do that so we can lift ourselves out of like, feeling stuck feeling, like the same wound is being poked at over and over and over again. And then, being able to move forward from there. And obviously, this can be reflected in all of our individual lives as, as we each manifest that in the way that it fits the experiences in life that we have chosen for ourselves. So very interesting there. Now, another thing that's going on is on the 9th and 10th of September, Jupiter is going to sextile Eris and trine Vesta at the same time. Like I said, there's not like really big things going on this month, but once again, a little bit of some of these other things going on with some of these other bodies. So Jupiter sextile Eris to me is like, when you drop in the trine to Vesta 2, is just really wanting to get behind some kind of cause, and that the energy is right to do that there's opportunities. So like, Jupiter is, we're talking about like broader issues, like societal type of issues, and like, when Eris is in this good thing, she can be a very, positive, beneficial force for pushing, what she's dedicated to, or the energy that we're dedicated to. So when it gets together with Jupiter, it's like, wanting to like really get our values and our philosophies out there. And the trine to Vesta means, we can find a lot of support with other people who have similar values, who have similar behaviors, rituals, what it may be, and want to like do this through like higher knowledge. Like, what have we learned? Getting some kind of wisdom from this, and finding some kind of like maybe even spiritual purpose behind a lot of these things that are going on. So very interesting there. And then the last thing I want to mention for the month is right near the end of the month, September 26th, I believe it is. Yeah, September 26th, Mercury goes retrograde. So this will be the third time this year, and once again in air signs. Like I said earlier this year, Mercury in air signs, each time it's going to go retrograde this time. Now, this time in Libra, it's going to go retrograde at about 25 degrees Libra. And so Mercury is going to spend a lot of time in Libra. It's already in Libra. Remember, went into Libra actually yesterday, Sunday the 29th, and it will remain in Libra until about, I think it's November 9th, something like that. It's like right around the beginning of November. So it's a long time in Libra because of the retrograde. It's going to stay in Libra during the whole retrograde period. And so we got 10 weeks. And like, once again, air sign. So it's going to be a lot to do with relationships, especially one-on-one relationships. There's going to be a lot of like, probably the Mercury retrograde type of stuff going on in those relationships. A lot of confusion, misunderstandings, miscommunications, things like that. So that is really going to be, a test for a lot of partnerships, that Mercury retrograde period. So that's September, and let's get to this week, because there's like 4 things I want to mention this week. And so, like I said, last week was the Pluto Eris square, being exact, and we just had Uranus turn direct the week before, and so very intense energy going on in the world. Lots of like big world issues that are making it seem like really chaotic out there, and bleeding through, obviously, into everybody's lives. These, when we're confronted with some of these larger issues, everybody is being sucked into it. And what's interesting this week, the sun is going to keep that energy of the Pluto Eris going. Just so you know, real quickly, it's going to be on the midpoint of the Pluto Eris in a black kite, where it sesquiquadrate both of them. So it's going to feel like, just stuck with a lot of these big issues this week that are just like really intense, really chaotic, really bringing on transformation in a very haphazard, wild, way. And so it's just, there's a lot of like energy that is just still going to be released, where it seems like we are kind of powerless to do much about it on that Pluto Eris level. But so the other things I really wanted to talk about this week, there's 4 other things I really wanted to get through this week, and it is going to be a challenging week. I mean, we're like kind of almost like really in the middle of it right now. And so the first thing I want to mention is early this week and going through most of the week, the sun is going to quincunx Saturn and then Chiron. And so it's on the midpoint of the Saturn Chiron sextile, which means it's forming a yod with the Saturn Chiron sextile. So it's really interesting on that level because once again it's a yod. So if we can allow the thing to just unfold and just follow the road and the footsteps it's laying out for us, then we can get a lot of benefit out of it ultimately. But it can feel very fateful, out of our control, like a lot of the events. And like when we try to intervene, it seems like it really just makes the situation worse. So it's kind of like, what we're going on with here is looking at a lot of the things that are holding us back. And in particular, when you think about the Saturn Sun quincunx, in particular, things that are like hidden fears or people that we may be afraid of, things like that, we may have to confront this week and make some adjustments to like that. And it may be that the situation was somehow kind of unbearable, but we were kind of dealing with it anyway, and now the yod is kind of like taking over, and it's like just driving things to a new place. And like I said, if we can just kind of go along with that, we can start to correct a lot of the imbalances and issues that have to do with whatever this fear is or whatever this person or situation that's blocking us. Many times it's someone who has some kind of authority over us for whatever reason, and it's just like, kind of like, you've been letting the sleeping dog lie, but there's like kind of like the elephant in the room and kind of thing. And it may get to that point this week where, something breaks in that whole situation and changes it all. And like I said, we have an opportunity to correct a lot of those imbalances, but part of that is going to be letting go of old belief systems, old fears, old sorrow, old habits, attitudes, even our feelings of like needing to even something out. All that stuff just has to be kind of let go of, or we're gonna be ending up influencing or trying to influence it, and we may throw it off course. So it's a very interesting energy to deal with, because ultimately it can lead to a really healing payback where we can create some new forms in our life that are much healthier than the ones we're kind of been living under because of some situation that we've just haven't been able to deal with, and have been just kind of keeping it at arm's length, and now it's like something is going to happen or has happened that's changing that. So it is an opportunity, but it is like, it is a thing where it's going to be a hard thing to balance, in the sense of not, wanting to poke too hard and get too involved. It's like kind of let it go and the right thing, but it really gives us an opportunity to repair a lot of damaged structure in our life, and the things that we can touch, and get us to really be more confident about whatever that situation is, and be able to face our fears of whatever that situation is, and gain some power in that situation. So very interesting. Now, otherwise, there's also midweek, Mars is going to be opposite Neptune, and Venus is going to be quincunx Neptune. And this is also very interesting energy together. It, to me, is almost like hangover energy. It's like all the stuff that's been going on. There's big events in the world that many people are, getting personally sucked into. A lot of people also, having to deal with whatever structures and forms are falling apart in their life. And this Mars Neptune, Venus Neptune is really interesting because I think it's going to show us how people are disappointing us and how they're not able to live up to what we were hoping they could live up to, our ideals, but also show how we kind of play into that by playing the role of a victim or martyr, by actually trying to think that people can live up to these ideals, and not being realistic about it. So then the Mars Neptune is kind of funny because it's like it has a lot to do with relationships and one-on-one relationships, partnerships, and things like that. And there can be a lot of odd energy mixed in that energy right now, in the sense of people maybe holding back information or how they really feel. They're not really expressing that, or they're purposely, deceiving others, taking actions kind of behind their back that are, misleading people. So it's very not really a good time to get involved in solid agreements, because, you may not have all the information you need. And once again, the problem with that is that, when we understand that that's going on, it can be very disillusioning to us that, that people are acting like maybe in this kind of underhanded way, and maybe we are too, and so it's really gonna have us maybe take even a step back into ourselves to kind of look at that kind of thing, and how, we end up setting ourselves up for being misled by injecting too much of our idealism into what we expect people to be, and then we can easily fall into that role of victimhood, and then from there easily get disillusioned and fall into a place of just where you feel like you need to retreat. Mars Neptune can take energy away and really dissipate it, and so really have us retreat into a contemplative zone of where are these ideals and things falling short. So not an easy aspect or to deal with, and like I said, almost like a hangover, because there's a lot of confusion, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of not sure what to do. What do I do next? The world is really, got us in this point, and we can maybe have that, with the opposition really playing through certain people in our lives that we have close relationships with. And then on the weekend, on Saturday, we have a good Mercury-Saturn trine. And this may be the best thing we have going this week. It's really, in air, and it's really a good time to really use your attention to detail your focused mind, to really get a lot of mental efforts done. So a lot of work with the mind, work with the hands, work with tools, things like that. It definitely gives this very kind of practical approach to things. You really want to get some things done, and the energy that day you can get a lot done if you use that focus and that attention. It's definitely conservative, and it favors business type relationships, practical type relationships over more social and fun type things. But it's a very, very beneficial aspect to get lots of those things done: paperwork, technology work, communications that are based on practical things. You can really make a lot of headway on Saturday on stuff like that. And then on Sunday, another really tough aspect forming. We're going to get a T-square, a cardinal T-square with Venus squaring Pluto and Venus opposite Eris, of course, because Pluto is square Eris, as we all know. So this is going to bring relationships to like a head point, with the Venus opposite Eris. It's kind of like last week where we had Venus opposite Chiron, where there could be some really difficult things going on in relationships. And this, with the Venus opposite the Eris, we can really see how like a lot of chaos and crazy type stuff come up and be exposed to us, especially with Pluto involved. And then it's going to be very emotionally triggering. It's going to be like, okay, now I can see how crazy or wild or out of control certain things can get in certain relationships. And like, it can be very triggering because it's going to be brought out into the light a lot of behavior that maybe prior to that was like, secretive or hidden. And, so for relationships that are struggling, it's going to be very, very difficult to get through this. And a lot of anger, resentment, feelings of revenge, things like that could really come up and really tailspin it into something really ugly. For people who are, working hard on their relationships and are trying to be more conscious of what's going on, it will give an opportunity to kind of clean the slate, to get the floor clean or get the stuff out there so that it can be worked on, so that things can be transformed. But it is going to be a very hot ball of wax to be, in your hands, and it's not going to be easy. There's going to probably be a lot of things that you look at that are going to be very triggering, you're very angry, and very feeling like I said, feeling these like almost like needing to take some kind of action that's vengeful, things like that. So very tough relationship weekend coming up next weekend, and there can be a lot of surprises wrapped up in all that, and it may be very, very difficult to control the intensity of the emotions that are coming out. So it's one of those things of really having to process that and let it go through us and not act on some of the intensity, but actually try to use the truth that's been exposed to us to build some kind of new bridge, or maybe to take the bridge down between you and that other that has led to this point. So not an easy week, really. Really the best thing is Mercury working well with the mind and tools on practical stuff. But I think, the beginning of the week, there's going to be, kind of more continued shocking things. And by the middle of the week, it's going to be a lot of processing, but feeling a lot of confusion, disappointment, things like that. But then maybe by the weekend, we can get lock into that Mercury Saturn and really get some serious headway done. But it is going to be a challenging weekend too, because of that T-square with Venus. So not an easy week ahead. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. This is a free service. It's on YouTube. The sign up for YouTube and then become a follower, turn your notifications on. I'm also available on all kinds of podcasts, and more people listen on the podcasts than watch on the YouTube, which is fine. There's really no reason to watch. You really need to more like hear it. So just go to your favorite podcast and look up Astrological Winds channel. You should be able to find it. If it's not on that one, try another one. I know it's on Apple iPodcasts and some of the really big ones, and it's been getting down through. So it is a free service. So the best thing you guys can do for me is to please pass the link on to anybody you know who might be interested in it. And also, if you're in need of any kind of professional astrology reading, I've been doing them now for 19 years. So give me and drop me an email, mattHue823@gmail.com, and we'll discuss prices, stuff like that. But I do natal readings, which is birth chart, predictive readings, which is very similar to what I do in the blog, except we look at a year of your life coming up, and always good to do around your birthday. Relationship readings, election charts if you need the best timing for an event, horary questions, fixed star readings for deeper soul purpose, astrolocality if you're looking to move somewhere else or finding the power spots on the planet where for certain planets that you want brought more into your life, all that kind of stuff, and many other kinds of things. Also can do events, lectures, classes available too. Like I said, once again, just email me, mattHue823@gmail.com for any interest in any of those services. And that's also my Zelle and Venmo account. So a lot of folks, or some folks anyway, like to give a little donation or some kind of donation sometimes to the blog. So you can do that through the email account. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. Next week we have a new moon that'll be kicking the week off, so I know we'll be talking about that next week. So until then, I know it's been tough times for everybody, and I think we're gonna have a lot of some continuation of that, and kind of the residual of like trying to process some of this stuff and how it's all coming out. So let's try to do that as best we can, as gentle as we can, and move forward through these tumultuous times together to a better future.